But all right, it looks like we're live. So we are back. Way
Technical
longer than
glitches as per
anticipated.
usual.
Well, to be fair, you were getting a new laptop set up. So
True. Finally, I mean, the camera quality on this is way better.
oh yeah, I just like
Like, you can
noticed that
see me
like
clearer.
when I get the camera, it's like so much better.
Yep.
But
Yeah, it,
yeah,
it was a work in progress.
yeah. Well, you did have to start up a whole new laptop, and that always takes a while. So we are back with films and fandoms.
Finally.
Yes, we are going to be talking today Leverage, Season 2, Episode 8, The Iceman Job. It's going to be a little funny
I
and
will
quite interesting.
totally be laughing.
Yeah, so before we even get into this episode, I want to shout out Pair of Pines. You can listen to him in Bigfoot Country 102.1 WIFT at lovemybigfoot.com or the Love My Bigfoot app from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on the weekdays, and our parent company, NAPCO.org. If you want to support the podcast, I can buy a coffee on Ko-Fi, which is at Films and Fandoms. And yeah, let's get started. So, as I said, we're going to be talking the Iceman Job. So, a bit of a summary for this episode before we get started. The team takes on a diamond trader to prove their client is innocent in a robbery that left him wounded. And with Sophie gone, Hardison has to be the grifter. The director for this episode is actually someone we haven't had before, Jeremiah S. Chechik. The writers for this episode, John Rogers, Chris Downey, and Christine Boylan, whose name we will see as a safe company. So there's Boylan and Kim, and then the other like fake safe company, Glenn Reader. Here are another two writers. Well, it was like Melissa Glenn and Jen Reader, except that's not her last name anymore because she got married. She actually got married in season 1 when they were after they were done with the wedding job. Or no. Because there's an episode in season 3 when, or like they reference the fact that she got married and how they like they just used a bunch of like her props that she would need for, or like not props but like stuff she needed for like a wedding or something. I remember them saying about that, but that's totally off course. So we open this episode with what is probably the most Boston person ever. He's just sitting behind the wheel of his armored car, listening to the baseball game. Spots like, well, of course the defense actually got like batting average, which is like the most Boston thing I think I've ever heard.
Oh, it's so cheesy, like, seriously.
It is, but you know what? That adds to like the blue collar like charm. And we see, I think the actor's name because I forgot to write this down. So we have like a goon, 3 goon squad who is led by, I think his name's Pasha, but I can't. No, I forget his name. But he's one of those. hey, it's that guy. People, you know what I mean? The people who are like in
Yep.
all like daytime TV shows.
Yep, you're right. It is Pasha. I looked it up on the IMDb just real quick.
So yeah, but him and his two goons, they shoot up or they like rob the truck, and of course, our the driver is like, oh hell, and he gets out of the truck or like yells at them to get away from the truck. He gets shot in the shoulder. They steal the diamonds and they go off. So we get to the client meeting where Joey Cospito, who is played by day player Vince Valenzuela, he's saying how, like he was like, he's a cop at the Boston PD for like 20 years, but like times are like, he's like, times are getting tough. So he is picking up shifts at this armored truck company to just help make ends meet since his wife has been laid off. Which now I know, like they mentioned this in the rookie, that like if you're a cop, you're not allowed to be taking on side gigs.
Yep, because
I don't know if that's actually true or not.
no, I can because I've watched The Rookie and I'm waiting for the next season.
No, I mean, like I know they like
Yeah,
said it in the movie, but like
yeah, in
real
The
life,
Rookie, they warn the training officers warn their rookies, hey, don't try to take side gigs while you're like
yeah,
basically
because
a probationary cop. And then which is kind of a
just like
double-edged sword because yeah,
yeah,
they're
because Greg tells him
it's
like
frowned upon to take another job while actively working for the LAPD
yeah.
in The Rookie.
I don't know if that's different for like
And
Boston.
it's kind of a little bit different, but Boston police, I looked this up because I was bored one night.
Of course,
Has a similar clause where you're not supposed to take side gigs or basically like anything that would be considered a bribe while you're actively in uniform.
yeah.
Because I've looked this up.
Could be some behind the scenes like contract thing where it's like he isn't like a full employee with the security company. He's just
I mean, he could be like a civilian
like a
contractor with
contractor on
them.
behalf of the Boston PD.
Yeah,
Or
which
maybe he volunteered to do it on behalf,
yeah.
what type of thing.
But I think it's more to me. It's more plausible the fact that he's probably a civilian contractor through the police
And
department.
yeah, that would probably make more sense because that's how you get out of the loophole of
Yep,
not
or the
being a.
gray area.
Which I mean, as like Joey starts explaining, he's like, he's clearly desperate for, he's trying to like help, keep a roof over his family's heads. And so he's been working part time with this armored car company in order to, help. And he was hauling 10 million in diamonds. And because the armored car company is cutting costs on, cutting costs on like the trucks, there was only him for a haul of $10 million in diamonds. Hi, Barry. Just watch it.
Oh no.
It's fine. It's fine. So, yeah. So carrying on. And so Nate points out that, it's probably an inside job. But then Joe is like, yeah, and they think like the inside person's me. which means I'm laid off from the force and with a bum shoulder because he got shot in the shoulder. He can't pick up any other work and his bills are starting to pile up because he's also pending the investigation. He's been suspended without pay from the force.
Yep.
And like, there's no evidence to clear him.
Not yet.
Well, not yet, but as of now, or as of like that point, there's no evidence.
Yeah.
So an interesting thing happens. So Nate orders a second drink. And Joey notices and he points out, be like, hey, who's the other drink for? And Nate starts like panicking a little bit because he bought the other drink for Sophie. Except Sophie's not there. He's just on habit. He buys, two drinks, one for him, one for Sophie, because they always do these client meetings together. So I always thought that was interesting. Now, like Nate bought like the second drink on instinct, even though it's presumably been a few days since like Sophie's left.
Yep.
And we get the intro, which I still love the intro.
Me too.
And so we got the rundown, which Hardison's introducing us to our mark for this episode. Jim Carrody III, played by Salvatore Zurab, who took over the family down business from his father and is basically running it to the ground due to his love of drugs, booze, and women. So he's got a big credit card bill piling up. And what's funny is that's why he set up the armed car robbery. But backtrack in just a minute. What's funny is Parker, she's like not like Zoom, but she's like moving on the couch. And that's annoying Elliot. And Hardison like she's like, what? And Parker's like, what? And they're all like starting to bitch at each other because it's like, just sit down. And it's like what? Like, what's going on here? And Parker's like, the couch is just feeling empty. And then and Nate tells it like, Elliot, will you please sit on the couch? And it's like, no, I'm not sitting. No, I'm sitting here now. And Hart's just like, move. Like, I'll sit on the couch. Move. So he sits down on the couch, finishes up his briefing. But like that shows how much the team's already starting to be affected by Sophie's absence.
Yep.
Because like Parker's like, no, like the couch doesn't even feel great without Sophie sitting on it. So like
That kind of hurt a little bit. Not gonna
yeah,
lie. When I first watched that, I was trying not to cry.
yeah, because like they're all being affected, and but carrying on. So
Yep. I love that it's so awkward.
it is, but then but the awkwardness is why they're kind of like snapping at each other because like neither one of them knows how to adapt. Like they've gotten so comfortable. They've gotten used to like the five of them.
Yeah.
That now that Sophie's gone, they're like, well, what the fuck do we do now? And which I do think this is nicely set up in the last episode, the True Life Crew Job, because Hardison says, we make sure Nate makes sure, we come safe, but you make sure we're okay. No, we trust Nate with the plan, but we trust you to make sure we're okay. So like Sophie's the heart now, and that's just like what's happening now that they don't have their heart anymore. So, anyways, carrying on. So Nate, of course, has come to the same conclusion as basically everyone else. Carity is behind the robbery of his own truck, and because he's in way over his head, and he has a $9 million insurance policy on the diamonds that he can use to pay off his credit cards. And he also has the $10 million value from the diamonds. However, and what's interesting is Ellie then points out, like an innocent people like Joey take the heat, which kind of starts this theme a bit of Elliot always pointing out like the working class people. We see this constantly throughout the show. Is he's always point out, the working class people, always make sure to help them out.
Yep.
When he can, make sure, like even in the underground job in season 3, he stays behind in the coal mine.
Yep, to help
And they
out.
leave to make sure like they're not a man short.
Exactly.
And in season 5, he helps Martin in the low price job, so he's not overworking. And I do think that's our first kind of major glimpse into who Elliot is. As by this point, we've established he grew up in the Midwest, and he was raised by probably a working class family. Well, we do find out that's the case, but he was raised by a working class family. And so I like that little detail that Elliot's always pointing out, like the working class. Or in that Lee Bryce, I think it's the Lee Bryce song, The Drinking Class. I don't even think Perry's watching anymore to even understand that joke. God damn it, Perry. Sorry. That was more of a joke directed towards him because, country music DJ. Anyways.
I understood that joke.
Yeah, I know. You know the song. I don't think he knows the song, though. So I've been trying to educate him. All right, carrying on. So, but Nate points out insurance fraud is a lot of red tape, and it's probably going to be at least a year before he sees all that money. But he can't wait that long because he got bills. Eric Carey can't wait that long because he got bills. So he's got to fence the diamonds. However, Parker, being the resident thief, points out there's a problem with that because Carey can't actually fence the diamonds because they got laser IDs inscribed on them. And so he can't fence them without getting rid of that ID number, which Elliot likens to like a VIN on a car.
Pretty much.
So far, their plan right now is to be the fourth person that can take these ID numbers off the diamonds. I think it was like Tel Aviv, Antwerp, and what was the other one?
Can't remember. It's been a long time since I've
I
watched this.
didn't write it down because the only one really that's relevant is kind of like the Antwerp, because that's the diamond capital of the world. And there's actually a major diamond heist in Antwerp like several years ago. Actually, no, it was in the 70s because in the 70s to like the 90s, there was like a string of like heists that happened like everywhere. But Yeah, so anyways, right now the plan: be the fourth person who could remove these ID numbers. Force Carity to bring the diamonds to them. Get him caught with the diamonds. Stick him on Lieutenant Bonanno's lap. And Lieutenant Bonanno, who is played by Robert Blanche, will become a recurring character. R.I.P. Robert Blanche. Part of me hope. See, I wish there would have been a scene in season, maybe like I feel like there should have been a scene at some point in Redemption where we actually see like a flashback in Nate's funeral, and like we see like Sterling like way off in the back holding like that glass. Well, like that glass that like him and Nate shared.
Yeah.
He's holding it with like some scotch. You have like Bonanno, maybe Bonanno's wife, his grown kids, or his grown son. You got, you know, uh, who else? You had like maybe Maggie. You had Hurley, Tara, even. You had like all these people, and I wouldn't be even be surprised if we saw like other like a client that like the clients they helped. If like we see like a couple of them, and then I just want one. Then like after everyone leaves, you just see Sterling walk up, place the glass of scotch on Nate's gravestone. He doesn't even have to say any, or because like that was like your move, Nate. But like Nate had the final move essentially. Um, but like it was just that like motion because Mark Shepard would sell the hell out of that. Just that. Tell me I'm lying, Lex. Tell me
You're
I'm
not.
lying.
He would. He would.
Like
And
he
then
would sell the hell out of
and then
that.
he would probably just like ad lib something really random.
I don't. I feel like what would be more appropriate is just like set Nate on there and maybe like because maybe like because the last conversation Sterling has with Nate, Nate's Sterling's like, uh, the world doesn't work like that. So when he sets like the glass on the grave, I feel like you should say like, "Guess you were right after all, you bastard," and like sets the glass on, then walks away. But moving on. Yeah, so the first problem that the team finds that they have is they're out of grifter. So Nate elects Hardison as the grifter, which of course he is all excited about. Parker is the roper, basically the one who gets the Mark's attention so the grifter can sell the con, and Elliot's the muscle. Except Parker's having flashbacks to the last time she tried being the roper, which some guy grabbed her thigh and she smacked him with the case, which valid. And one guy, and then in the stork job, we had a flashback of like we had that flashback from the stork job where Parker stabbed a guy with a fork. And I think that the other flashback of Parker hitting the dude with the briefcase was actually supposed to be at the beginning of season 1, or yeah, during season 1, which to show like you
Yeah,
know, they were up.
the flashback where she hits the guy with the briefcase. That was from the
Gosh.
Nigerian Job first episode of the first season.
Oh, right. Right. And basically, they ran out of room,
Yeah,
or they thought it didn't show like what it was supposed to be at the time, or
yeah.
something.
But yeah,
But
I
they
love. Okay, so I have the trivia pulled up on IMDb, but this is freaking funny, and it talks about the storage job, that little flashback clip that we get, and I like how they have written the flashback of Parker stabbing the mark with the fork from the stork job was not a deleted scene. It actually they actually had that happen.
yeah, that was the actual scene from the stork job.
And I've never laughed so hard, and I'm like, oh. And then this is kind of a awkward little segue, but it kind of connects. I have to bring this up because you know where my mind is going. Um, in the train job for Leverage Redemption.
The Great Train Job, yeah.
Yeah, where she's tapping the fork
Oh yeah,
on the table and Ellie
it
takes
stands
it
up
away.
forever. And Burger's like, what am I supposed to eat?
Because when you tap the guy with the fork.
And so they can't trust Parker with the fork.
Exactly, it's because of that. And the shenanigans that happened in this job too. Something happened that's just my prediction that something happened. So when we get our next season, something minute and kind of crazy of like, don't do that. Remember what happened last time?
Oh yeah. Evan, if Parker's like, yeah, I'll be fine.
I like how they have.
Immediately goes to hide, call mom, be like, oh, I can't do this.
I like how they have that little
Yeah, she
snippet of
calls
connection between the original OG Leverage and Redemption, kind of with little Easter eggs here and there.
Well, yeah, they do a
And
good job
ugh,
of that.
I love it. But yeah, that
But
just popped into my mind, and I'm like, I can't stop laughing now.
carrying on. So Parker's first phone call is to Sophie. She's like, I don't know what to do. And Sophie's like, okay, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna go in the closet in Nate's room. You're gonna pull out one of my sexy mini dresses, and you're gonna get my emergency Jimmy Choos. Worker's like, Jimmy who? Like, do you have a body in Nate's closet? Jimmy Choos, by the way, is a expensive pair of heels that I probably can't even afford to breathe the same air around. So, yeah, I grew up with like Walmart shit. Okay, what makes you think I'm buying $100 heels? Nah, and probably more than that, to be fair. But Sophie also goes Parker stuff.
Okay, so I looked it up. The cheap pair is 800, a little right around $800, up to over $1,000 for a pair of shoes.
That's like my one paycheck
Holy shit!
for shoes that are probably only gonna last 2 years.
Or be worn once in a blue moon. But yeah, literally
Yeah, I don't even.
$875 for a pair of shoes.
Yeah, I know.
I'll stick in my family's footwear cheap shit.
I'm still wearing the same heels I got like 10 years ago.
I have my three.
What the hell are you talking?
I have my 3 pairs of fancy schmancy dress shoes from when I was in high school for prom. Both proms.
They still work, don't they?
I can still fit into them. My fat feet can still fit into those shoes, and they are still comfortable.
So then why would you need to spend $800 on a new pair of shoes?
Exactly.
$100 ones at Walmart do just fine.
Yep.
I'm just saying. I clearly am a broke
I mean, I
bitch.
went to a bridal shop and I got them for like $150. They were discount shoes.
Okay, but they weren't $800.
I know. I'm like, Sophie, what are you doing?
I have never even been to a wedding
I have.
that was fancy enough to wear shoes like that.
I
They
was
don't
there.
like. They don't want. They don't. Nobody want. No, look, I grew up suburban white trash. Okay, do you think I was getting invited to events like that?
Probably not. Well,
Let's be.
yeah. Okay, so now that we're kind of on the topic of this because it's kind of funny. I've been a flower girl. I've been a junior bridesmaid, and it was required of me to wear heels for the junior bridesmaid.
Mm,
Those heels were like that big, and
mm.
I could not walk. So I fucking took them off, and I walked barefoot down the aisle.
Yeah, I
So yeah,
have
like
only ever been a guest to like.
yeah. I mean, I've been a guest at a wedding. I've been part of the bridal party, which was
Oh no, I don't have
insane.
an.
It was crazy. But yeah, it's just like go cheap or go like
First,
affordable in your price range.
I feel like I've been to only like 3 weddings in my life. One, I was just a guest. I was too young probably to even do anything. The second was like the sort of adopted parents of my mom, though that was like a backyard biker wedding. So
That would be
you
awesome.
could assume what the dress code was for that. And then the third one was my father's wedding, in that I didn't even want to go, but I was kind of forced to go because it was my father's wedding. Yeah, it's a complicated story. I'm not.
But yeah, I like how
That turned into an
that's
awkward
like
situation fast because my step mom tried to introduce me as her daughter, and I was like, "Fuck that! You ain't my mom."
but yeah,
Yeah,
I like how like there are like little bits of like with like shoes. And I like how she brings up that like shoes are important. Like Sophie brings up like shoes are important. What clothes you wear depending on like what
this is on the
style
title. Dude.
of like kind of event or situation that you're in. And I'm like, so that's her masking
Yeah, yeah, but
in a way.
also
It's
Sophie understands Parker enough now to understand, like, okay, this is the context that Parker needs to be able to understand.
yeah,
So this is like she tells her, like, all right, you gotta trust the character, like, get like the Rosalind diamond that you stole from Perth, wear that, get the sexy mini dress, get the shoes, and that will sell the character. You barely even have to say anything.
yep. And she's
And
like, and she basically told her, let what your mask is basically is how I my brain imagine this like kind of connecting. Let basically she's saying let the mask that you're wearing with the clothes, the shoes, and all this speak for
costume.
you.
Mhm.
Let it speak
But
for you. And I've
yeah.
never related to something so hard in my entire life.
Yeah, it's also like, what's funny is the whole Jimmy Choo thing that reminds you. There's a song called Catch Us If You Can" by El King, and it was in the movie that came out probably a decade ago now, called Hot Pursuit with Anna Faris and Sofia Vergara. And it was a
I've
movie.
never watched it.
I haven't seen the movie either, but I love that song because the lyrics remind me of like Sophie, because one of the lyrics is mugshots and Jimmy Choo's diamonds and orange jumpsuits. Get your certificate, get your certificate. But yeah. And of course, later that night, we see Parker walking to the bar, and we get the obligatory camera up, camera pan up to show the leg shot. Let's be real. Beth Reachcraft has got a nice set of legs. And that dress does actually work pretty well with the long legs. I will say that.
She can pull it off, that's for
She can
sure.
pull it off. And she's repeating the mantra, like, okay, say nothing, just the diamond. Say nothing, just the diamond. And he's like, what you saying? So it's like, nothing. Or say nothing. And so Parker walks up beside Carity, orders a drink. Carity immediately, like a man, zooms in, right at her boobs. Man, if you're trying to hit up a woman at a bar, do not be staring at her boobs. Trust me, they will not like that. I don't care what they're wearing. Don't be staring at a woman's boobs.
Okay, so as someone who has had this happen in a bar, is my little local like brew pub. I proceeded to look at this grown ass man, this 30-something-year-old man, mind you, up and down. I'm just wearing jeans and a t-shirt, and I'm with my dad at the bar getting something to drink. And I look him up and down, and I go, "Walk away."
Oh yeah, that's
Walk
the
away.
other thing you don't want to do, fellas, is try talking to a Midwestern dad's father, because you know what everyone in the Midwest has? Lex. You want to answer that for me?
They have something called a human hole puncher, and they will use it if needed.
Yes, ma'am.
Speaking from experience here.
That's why. That's why. All right. So basically, so Carity is, of course, passing off, looking at Parker's boobs as, he's looking at her like her necklace,
Yep.
and of course, Carrie's asking about the diamond, and Parker's like, "It was a gift from my boyfriend," and that almost like interests like Carity more, being like, "Oh, she's got a boyfriend." Like, no, okay, no, Carity, because not only does she got a boyfriend, she's got another boyfriend that would beat your ass. That was my OT3. What was that look for?
Not you, my one of my dogs is making a lot of noise in there. It
Oh,
just kind of pissed me off, so I wouldn't be surprised if the mic picked it up.
oh, but yeah. So, anyways, Parker takes Carity over to like this back room when they got pool table set up. Hardison and Elliot shoot him some pole, and of course Hardison, like, he immediately like has to be all macho, slams the stick on the table. It's like, "Hey, what have I said? What have I said about bringing people around here?" Because he's putting on an obnoxious British accent. But of course, Elliot goes to like shake his hand, pins him to the pool table.
Hot as fuck. That was hot.
Yeah, hot as fuck, hot as fuck. And
And I legitimately was giggling when that happened. And what do we get to see? What do we see?
beads,
Yes.
beads, beads.
Oh,
So, for some context, the beads. So, in season 2 of Leverage, Christian Kane has beads in his hair, which I think he does that. He did that to like honor his native heritage, if I'm being correct.
yep. And he's done it. He did it a few times in Leverage.
He's done it. Yeah, he does it in later seasons too. I think this
Yeah.
is just the first time that this
These
is like
were, I think, just
first season.
these were
Oh,
blue, if I remember right.
yes, they were blue because he had the blue eagle necklace.
Yep.
like what would be on the eagle looks like what would be on like a totem. And that looked like it was turquoise.
Yep. It
That was
was yep. The eagle
I
was
think
turquoise and
Chris is I think one of the very few men in Hollywood
yep,
who
hold
could
on.
actually
Come on, focus on it.
show it's my
But yeah.
fucking picture.
But yeah.
It is. But I think Christian Kane is one of the very few actors in Hollywood that I've seen that can actually pull off accessories.
Exactly. But yeah. That
Yeah.
that yeah, this morning when I was at work, I wasn't feeling the best. And that's the picture that you sent me. And I proceeded to giggle for like 5 minutes.
I knew you'd like that. Yeah.
But yeah,
But, but,
those hair beads make me go feral. Like,
but what's funny though is when Elliot pins Carity to the table, Parker's like, "Oh no, it's cool. He just wants to talk business or something." And Hardison tells Elliot, like, "Okay, like lay down the arms, brother." Elliot lets him go. And Hardison's like, "You'll have to forgive him. He's touchy. It's because he's a mutant." Like as soon as that happens, Elliot looks at Elliot like, "Motherfucker! Like, how dare you call me saying I'm a fucking mute?" And then of course we have the Russian goon squad come into. They get into a fight, and yeah, and we also figure out that that's the robbers. And as Elliot handles it, and Hardison is being all cool, that is not being subtle at all. Basically says that he's a thief, and he's like, "Hardison, like way to be subtle." And yeah, but Carity is also not being real subtle either. So I could see like in Hardison's mind why he would go overboard. But then he starts listing off Parker's heist as his own heist, which kind of pisses her off because you see her pacing.
yeah.
And Hardison offers like the 30%, offers 30% in order to get the ID numbers off the lasers. Carity doesn't go for it. Sorry, Carity doesn't go for it and leaves before he can take the phone number Hardison gives him. But then uh, Pasha takes it. Well, his character takes it. And of course, back at HQ, they're all three of them are bitching again because Elliot's bitching at Hardison for going too overboard, and he's going to get them in trouble, and he's not going to be there to help them out. And Parker's like, "Yeah, like Sophie said, to be as little as possible, trust the character." And then what's funny is Nate walks in, fixing his time, be like, "When did Sophie say that?" And then, of course, Parker tends to be like, "Oh shit, dad found out. I called mom when I wasn't supposed to. Uh,
Yep.
it was a while ago. Might have been last Christmas. It might not have been Sophie." And it's like, But he goes telling him that, like, they're essentially doing the next part of the plan, which is to put more pressure on Curdy. And and then Elliot tells Hardison to be like, "Hey, if you get in trouble, I'm not bailing your ass out." And Hardison's like, "Yeah, sure." Elliot's like, "Not gonna help." So Nate goes to Carity Diamonds as Sterling, which I think is payback for Stark using his name in the Two Life Crew job. And Carity is not happy because Nate says that it's going to be a while before he can get the money. So he's basically reaffirming for Carity that, like, yes, this is going to be a while, to kind of pressure him into taking, their bait. So this is kind of like the actual part two of the con. So they need a lab and a laser. So Elliot is on the phone with who we find out is Sophie, and he's bitching about Hardison going overboard, and they have to rely on him because he's backup. And then of course he tells Sophie not do not tell Nate. So they clear out the lab to prepare for Carity's arrival, and then Hardison comes in because he's running out of freaking Ferrari. I know we bought a Ferrari just for this. And so they switch out the diamonds. Carity buys it that they can actually provide this service. And they make a deal. And Harrison also gives the time to him, be like, I'm only going to be in the States for a couple more days. I have to go back to have a thing in Antwerp. And they walk out of the lab. Parker and Elliot go to drive in the truck, leaving Hardison to go to the Ferrari. Except he gets nabbed by the Russian goons. And so now Hardison's been nabbed. So he has to. So he then like is freaking out a little bit, but he's like, you know what? He finds out that the goons want him to steal the diamonds from Carity. And of course, who does he call? Sophie. Because he plays it off like, oh, like I need to call my girl, like, birds. And Bart's like, okay. So he gives him the phone. Except Harrison has to act like he's talking to Parker while talking to Sophie, which is kind of funny because he's saying all these things, and Sophie's like, "Oh, you've been nabbed." And Harrison's like, "Afraid so." And she finds out, like, "Oh, like you'll be like, oh, you fell into the trap of the overzealous goons. As long as they're not Russians." And Harrison's like, "That's a little bit of a problem, Crumpet." So, yeah, Harrison calls Sophie, and so Sophie's got to call Nate, and what's funny is that Nate goes on comms and is like, "So, Hardison, just got an interesting call from Sophie. She tells me you've been recruited by the Russians." Which is, Nate's dad's mad voice. Like, oh, dad's mad. Then Elliot comes in, sits down, putting this commentary. He's like, I had courtside seats, man. Tell Hardison next time I see him, I'm going to break his arm. And Nate's just like, Elliot says hi. So now dad and big brother are mad.
I want to know how many times it took them to film that little part because I could just see Christian just busting out laughing. Because I know I did.
Oh, yeah. So.
Because the fact I've seen the blooper reel, there are several clips of them just busting out laughing.
Yeah. When we get to the end of season 2, I want to show the blooper reel because I think that's gonna be fun. But anyways, so they have to figure out how to help Hardison, and that's when they find out the Russians are going up to carry the diamonds. So Nate's got to go find or to come with the plan to basically break into the vault for Hardison and then have Hardison fake it. So Nate has to go to the vault to do like a walkthrough, which Nate passes always be like, oh, we have to make sure everything matches with the insurance policy. Yada yada yada. So Parker's gonna go in, disable some of the alarms, and then help Hardison fake it. So they do this, which it leads to a funny moment when Hardison has to beat up Elliot, except Elliot's too stubborn and won't like go down because they're too busy bitching at each other about, you know, acting. And Parker's like, guys, she's trying to, break into the vault. Except the first problem comes in when Hardison starts moving too fast, and Parker can't doesn't have enough time to get all the alarms set. Or no, she manages to get all the alarms done before Hardison and the goon squad bust into the vault, and then Hardison goes to figure out what vault or what deposit box it is, or goes to the deposit box, and Parker wasn't able to pick the lock because she ran out of time because Hardison accidentally rushed her. And also, Nate runs into a problem as Cody's discovered the break in. So Hardison tells the good squad to go stop, Carity while he nicks the diamonds. And then they all run into the vault. Hardison's not there. They get locked in their own vault. Banana comes in, puts the hammer down, finds the stolen diamonds. How they were able to do this is after Hardison sent the goons away. Parker pulled him into this not like a closet type thing. I think it was just the electrical panel, but it led to an open space. So Parker pulls him in. Hardison's like, "Thank you. I mean, thank you. How are we getting out of here?" And there is some tension because you see Hardison looking at Parker, and Parker's kind of looking a bit shy. She's like, "Pull your arms in," and then blows det cord underneath them, causing them to drop through the floor. Which they're able to get away with that because the seismic sensors have already been triggered. Well, all the alarms have been triggered, so they're not going to focus on the seismic sensor that's in the vault. So, and they use the tunnel that's underneath they use the tunnel to escape because there's a tunnel beside the vault. So they use that to escape. And what's funny is Banana's kind of is suspicious of how convenient it was that the stolen diamonds, Carity, and the goon squad were all just neatly tied up in a bow for him. But he kind of lets it slide. So Nate meets with Joey, and they manage to give him some money from the loose diamond that they had. Because when Parker are back at the lab, they had the real diamond from when Parker and Hardison, or when Hardison swapped it for the cubic zirconium in order to show Carity that the lasers have been, or the ID numbers have been lasered off. And he's also back on the force. And what's funny is then Hardison and Parker and Elliot are all sitting at the bar having a drink. And Hardison's smiling, and Elliot's like, "What are you smiling about? You still messed up." And Hardison's like, "Because you said you weren't gonna help me." And Parker's like, Elliot's like, "Parker made me." Parker's like, "No, I didn't." And Hardison tries getting Elliot to hug him, except it gets awkward because Elliot's trying to push away, but Hardison's relenting. So like it becomes awkward, or they like touch foreheads for a second. It's like, what? Like, get off me. It's just funny. But then we get kind of like somber at the end because Nate ends up calling Sophie and, saying I got one fine. And of course, Sophie's like, oh, so you're saying you guys are fine without me? It's like, no, that's not what I meant. But then he like stops and then he's like, like, I'm sorry. Like, I'll make sure they don't call again. And like, I'm sorry. Like call anytime you want. And then Nate starts like stuttering, like he doesn't talk. Then he's just like, then he just hangs up. Then Sophie hangs up her phone as well, drops it in her class, and then leaves, like where the bar she's at. But it is this kind of like somber moment because like no, you could probably tell that Nate was like trying to like say, like I miss you, but he can't quite bring himself to say that because that would mean explaining why he misses her, and that would mean confessing his feelings, which he doesn't want to do. And that's like this back and forth between Nate and Sophie. And that's what's it's also like the continuing spiral that Nate's going down. He doesn't have Sophie to pull it back, and so now he's starting to spiral a bit. And that's actually the end of the episode. And so I do have some final notes. I do find it interesting that like they had every team member call Sophie, but like Sophie doesn't stop them. No, she actively listens and helps them. And I think it also goes to show how much being away from the team is hurting Sophie as much as the other team's hurting, because like she's used to like checking in on everybody, that like she can't help but check in on everybody. Even when like she asked for space and they're trying to respect that like she asked for space, they can't help but still go to her. And she still can't help herself but want to help them because that's who she's like become. And also Nate not being able to like really talk to Sophie at the end because I think he's scared. And I think honestly he's scared that like Sophie isn't ready and that like he's not ready. But like so it's just like it's this tension that's between them. And now they're like physically apart, so they can't do anything about it. And I really think this episode did a good job. I think this episode did a really good job of showing how lost the team is without Sophie, which continues like the theme that happens the rest of the season. Essentially, is what's the team like without Sophie? And I have to once again mention the beads because the beads are cute. But I mean, those were kind of my notes for this episode. I mean, it was like kind of like your standard leverage episode with a hint of like what's to come mixed into it. Because like we're starting to see that like downward spiral that Nate's going on. And so that's all really my notes. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
To be honest, this episode was kind of a sad one.
It is a little bit of a sad one, but it's not like once you like get into the nitty gritty of it, I think it is a bit sad, but like sad in like a like character kind of way.
Yeah. But this is also it's kind of opening up more of like a not really a door, but a path for them to start kind of figuring out and adjusting to kind of figure out who they are now from when they first got together as a team.
Yeah, you
Like
could
how they
almost
progress. It's kind of
yeah,
like it's a turning point right now. And it's scaring all of them in a way that they don't understand right now.
yeah,
But they will
because
later on.
I think it's scaring Nate most of all because he's realizing like just how dependent he is on Sophie and his
Mhm.
sobriety.
Yep.
And we'll get more into that probably in the bottle drop when we have the turning point for that arc. But Parker, she's kind of having to force to like step up and be like like be like the grifter and the roper that like she's not used to playing. She steals things. That's what she's good at. That's what she knows. That's what she's comfortable doing.
Yep.
She's not used to having to actually like grift a mark. That's not what she does.
And it kind of freaked her out a little bit, but at the same time, it's kind of awesome.
And Hardison, he gets way in over his head because he, is overconfident in his ability because he's like, oh, I've seen Sophie do this a million times. Of course I'm going to be able to, grift. I'm going to do this no problem. But in his overconfidence, he forgot Sophie's most important role when it comes to grifting, which is about subtlety. He went too overboard, and it was like Icarus flying too close to the sun. He got overconfident in his grifting abilities,
Yeah.
and that led him to get nabbed by the Russians, which meant he had to call Sophie to bail him out. But that is just funny the way like that conversation. Which is why if you saw the TikTok I made, it was that I like uh it's like Jeffy like, did, like Jeffy, did you get a speed ticket? Jeffy, that promo I made. Hold on. Oh, there we go. Like you didn't hit anybody. You didn't run anybody over. You didn't get a speed ticket. Oh, Jeffy. What, did you my face? Did you get a speed ticket? Jeffrey! Because that's kind of how the conversation is. So if it was like, oh no, you've been nabbed. She was like, it was the Goon Squad. Oh no, you fell into the trap of the Russians. Or you fell into the trap of the overzealous goons. Like, you'll be fine as long as they're not Russians. And I was like, a bit of a problem with that. I was like, oh no, like I'm gonna have to call Nate. And I was like, no, like, and I was like, no, don't call Nate. I was like, ah. I'm like, honestly, like, yeah, like you're gonna have to call Nate or you're gonna get shot. So like, and then like Nate coming and be, and then Nate coming on comms, be like, so Hardison, I just got an interesting phone call from Sophie. I just like it's like when like you get in trouble at like school and like you try to like hide that you got in trouble except as soon as you didn't realize the school called your mom.
Yep.
So she comes home and it's like, so, what'd you do at school today?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Because I got a call from your principal. And then you're like, oh shit. Like, oh, mom. Now, see, when I was in school, I wasn't stupid enough to do anything that warranted getting a phone call from my mom or getting a phone call to, like, my mom getting a phone call. However, she did get a phone call that I was getting harassed pretty bad. And she kind of forced me to tell her about it, except that was at the Valley Dairy parking lot where I had a full on breakdown. But then my mom took me inside once I settled down and we got food. And then I got called to the guidance counselor's office the next day and was forced to write down everything that happened. I don't know if anything ever happened to them. Probably not. But yeah. Yeah. Love my mom. And that's also the reason the story I mentioned at the beginning about my dad's wedding. That was why I was so pissed off at my stepmom and why I don't have why I don't have a relationship with anyone on that side of the family is because she tried pulling that shit on like the day she married my dad, like calling me her daughter, and I was like, "Fuck that!" Like, like stepdaughter, and I could tell she like was kind of pissed about it, but like she didn't say nothing. Then I immediately went home afterwards. It was like telling my mom, be like, Carol fucking trying to introduce, well, my stepmom. Like, she tried to introduce me as, like, her daughter. And I told her off. I told her off, kind of told her off because, like, you're my mom. You're the one who raised me. She doesn't fucking get that title. Like, I was still living with my mom at the time because I wasn't old enough to move out on my own yet. And so, like, my mom, like, was supportive of, like, my decision. But then the next day was 4th of July when I was once again going to be with my dad and my stepmom at my aunt's lighting off fireworks to the middle of nowhere. And then I had to sit down and have a kind of awkward conversation with my stepmom about boundaries, which she kind of respected, but also kind of did not respect at the same time because she tried being like she tried playing happy families and I was like not having that. And that's another story I don't want to get into because that's personal to me. But anyways, I don't honestly really have any more notes on this episode. So is there anything else you'd like to add?
Not really.
Okay, so to wrap up this episode, I'd like to once again thank our sponsor, Prairie Pines. So you can listen to Prairie Pines in Bigfoot Country, 102.1 WIFT at lovemybigfoot.com or the Love My Bigfoot app from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time weekdays. I'd like to also thank our sponsor, NAFCO.org. We also have a Ko-Fi page if you want to buy us a coffee to go help support the podcast. All proceeds from the coffees goes to both me and Alex to support us on our journeys as kind of content creators. We also have a Discord. That's the invite code. Our Instagram is FN Fandoms with Kaylee and Lex. Our Twitter is FN Fandoms. Our Facebook is also Films and Fandoms. You can go on my website, chaosandtelactin.com. Yeah, I'm also on Twitter, Miss Movie Fan _67. I'm also on TikTok, Movie Fan _67. You can follow Alex on Instagram at Alex underscore the Alley Cat, on Twitter at Alex the Alley Cat, TikTok at Alex the Alley Cat, and you can go support our friends at Ma Filmworks at facebook.com/Ma Filmworks to go see what they're getting up to because they got some fun stuff coming up and they could use some love. So, on that, as all I know, so the next episode we are going to be talking about is Leverage Season 2, Episode 9, The Lost Air Job, which we will be introduced to a brand new character and we get to find out. So not only will we get introduced to a new character, but we'll get to meet what is probably the most annoying of Nate's aliases. And you know who I'm talking about, Lex.
Yep.
So, I don't have anything else. Do you have anything else?
Nope.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe the YouTube channel. And also follow us on Twitch. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye bye, guys.